Hey, Sunmers, this is Peter Panic coming at you with the preseason Week 8 champ rotation with my co-host, as always, Mr. Manslaughter.
Hello.
And we're going to be coming at you guys this week with a whole new list of champs. And on the champs we've already touched on in previous episodes, we're going to talk about builds a little bit and actually playability. So we're just going to jump right in as we usually do. We're going to move right to Amumu, the sad mummy. I think that Cody and I have both talked about Amumu plenty of times. We both agree, maybe the best tank in the game next to Singed. It's easily a 1 and 2 with them. Scale's great, so I'd like to kind of talk about his build and almost, how he's a jungler as well, which a lot of people know. But one of the best things, in my opinion, to build on Amumu is anything like a Rod of Ages, anything that has a lot of health and ability power. Cody, would you like to jump in there?
Yeah, with his 1.0 scaling on a lot of his abilities, and his E only scales 0.5, but you can use it a ridiculous amount of times because it just basically resets when you're in a team fight.
Yeah, when you're getting hit.
Yeah. It's really a waste if you don't build a little bit of AP on him.
Yeah, and the mana cost on it's so low, you might as well just shoot it off every time you get it because there's no point not to do it.
Yeah.
And also, we said that we would definitely touch on this, but on the recent patch, his attack range was increased to 125 from 100. It's not a huge buff there, but with his passive, his auto attacks reduce the target's magic resist by 15, 20, 35 for 4 seconds. So that really helps his passive in that sense. So Amumu, a really great champ, getting a little bit better with this patch. Again, nothing too extreme on it, but still definitely a good buff on him. And we'll move on to I think Cody and I both we both talked about Caitlyn before. She's one of the better. I won't say she's one of the better AD carries, actually. I'll say that she's a decent AD carry if you can't get Vayne, if you can't get Ashe, if you can't get, I would even say Tristana, Corki. If you can't get any of those characters, which I don't know why you wouldn't be able to get one of them, I guess you can play her. She does have that nice escape ability with the 90 caliber net. She can push herself over walls, and she scales pretty well with AP and AD. So weapons like Hex Tech or even a Nasher's Tooth, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
So items like that would help her, but again, I think we both agreed, Cody, and I'll let you chime in a second, but she's just not one of the best AD carries, and actually she recently got nerfed in the last patch. Her base damage just got scaled down a little bit, and the trap radius, she puts those little traps down. Right, went from 135 from 150 to 135, so it got reduced a little bit. Not huge, but Cody, you can go ahead.
All right, yeah. So as Dave was saying, I also agree that Caitlyn is probably one of the weaker AD carries right now, and that's just due to what they nerfed in the recent patch. Actually, is where I really felt like she was strong was in her laning phase because she has the highest range out of any AD carry, higher than most champions in general. Actually,
on her auto attacks.
Yeah, she's third, and then her Q has some nice range. Her W kind of gives you some protection from ganks, and her ults for good early kills in lane.
Definitely.
But when you look at her passive and stuff, or her team fighting capability, she's really just weaker than a lot of other AD carries. Like Vayne has a passive on one of his abilities that's better than Caitlyn's passive.
Definitely. Caitlyn's passive is kind of useless, I would say, in team fights. It's better in the laning phase. She's a better laning champ than most of the AD carries. But when it comes down to that team fighting, you're not going to get Vayne's tumble and knock into the wall. You're not going to get Ashe's, enchanted crystal arrow or her slow. With Caitlyn, she's just going to kind of lack in the team fights.
Mm-hmm.
And moving on to Fiddlesticks, the Harbinger of Doom, I'm sorry. One of the most, when I first started playing the game, one of the most annoying champs to play against in lane. You really could. It was really hard to keep up with him. It seemed like every time you went near him, he would just silence you with the crow, or it just seemed like anything you did, he'd fear you. It wouldn't matter. But as I've learned a little bit more, if you're gonna play against him, push him hard. Cody, do you want to talk about actually playing him?
Fiddle is obviously very strong when he's fed. So when you're playing him, you're going to want to keep that in mind and go for a lot of early ganks in order to get that early lead, I guess, in kills. Mm-hmm. Because he's one of the best gankers in the game.
Definitely. With that fear.
He has a targetable fear. His ult gives him a teleport. You can't ask for much more in a gank.
Yeah, and again, going back to what we were talking about with Amumu earlier, a jungler, one of the best junglers is also Fiddle. I mean, if you're going to look into maybe learning a jungler this week, I would suggest Fiddle or Amumu.
Yeah.
Both are very good.
It'll be interesting to see this week a combination of Amumu and Fiddle ultimates.
Definitely, yeah, that's true.
The Fiddle passive, I don't think a lot of people realize, is basically magic resistance debuff. So his ult will deal more damage, and so will Amumu, so will all those other AP ults.
That's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I mean, especially in those AoE passives as well. I mean, granted, Amumu isn't an AoE passive, but still, I mean, if you could take down a pretty tanky character pretty fast with the two of them.
Oh yeah.
So both dealing magic damage, and Fiddle again, he scales decently, 0.45 on everything, so not terrible. All right, we're gonna move on to the next champ. We have Kale, I think is how you pronounce it. I actually asked my girlfriend to come downstairs this past week while she was here, and had her pronounce some of the League of Legends characters' names just to see what she thought, and she went with Kale. I've heard some people say Kaylee, but I'm going to go with Kale, and that was a ramble that nobody needed to listen to. But another champ that scales AD and AP. Cody, I think you've played her a couple times, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll let you run away with that. I've actually never had the chance. I bought her a while ago and never really played her.
All right, so Kale, in my opinion, is one of the funnest champions to play this week. Definitely not the strongest. She's been lacking in the, I guess, strength category for a while now. Mm-hmm. She's technically a support character. She has a heal. It's nice. Her ultimate is just crazy. If you use it right, you can completely change team fight outcomes, but it's very often misused. So just use it to protect your carry, stuff like that. But the problem I have with her really is her heal. It's okay, but it eats up all her mana, which she needs to use on her E, which gives her attack range.
Okay.
So you're going to be really mana dependent. You basically need blue buff in team fights, which you don't want to really give to your support champ. So I think she's definitely a fun champ, but not one really worth learning.
All right, we're going to move on to Nasus. Like we said a couple weeks ago, Nasus players have come out in droves. I'm surprised with the most recent patch, he didn't get a nerf. Because this guy, if you put him in a sustain lane and you let him farm up his Q, that's the end of the day. Like the day is his to have, because you cannot stop fed Nasus. And he doesn't have to be fed. He can just be averagely strong. I mean,
as long as he's last hitting with his Q.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I cannot believe that he didn't get a nerf with this last patch, because Riot has to see the people talking about on the forums. It's all over the forums. People are just talking about, just get Nasus, build him AP, done. I mean, build him tanky AP. Again, I've watched him just hit people that are just doing damage to him, and he just gains health. I don't understand it, but he needs nerfed. He's an OP champ.
I was actually going to say you can also build Nasus AD and get a Trinity Force on him, and you'll basically be using your Q and then proccing your Q with the auto attack, and then just use your Q again. I've seen that too.
Yeah, and Yumu's Ghost Blade Also, I just recently found this item because I started playing Shaco this past week. Also, has an awesome passive of 15% cooldown reduction and plus 20 armor penetration. So that's also a good item. Again, he's OP. He's exactly what OP means. He's not hard to play. So I don't know. But he needs nerfed. Learn him. But he's gonna get nerfed soon. He has to. There's no way. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Olaf, the Berserker. One of the funniest champs to lane against because he's just constantly yelling out stuff. So he's a riot, pun intended. He's a lot of fun to play in lane. He got a little bit of a buff on the last patch. His undertow missile speed increased to 1600 from 1500. And his Ragnarok also now breaks crowd control effects on activation. And he's a good champ. Cody, you want to talk about it? He's a good champ. He's a good melee champ.
I was just going to say, when you play Olaf, build an Atmogs. His abilities scale off his health. He has some that do. And, I mean, Atmogs, even with the Frozen Mallet on the end of it, too, just fantastic items on him. So if you're going to play him, use that.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to use an attack.
Oh, and then you're going to want to build him at least partially tanky, because if you're taking so much damage that it doesn't really matter if you get crowd control or not, you just die instantly, then your ult is pointless. You want to have enough health and damage reduction to be able to keep that ult going for its entire length.
Mm-hmm. All right, and moving on to the next champ, I think he's one of the most overlooked champs in the game. A lot of people, I've actually gotten arguments just this past week with some people that I play with about this champ. It's Shen, the Eye of Twilight. I think he's a really cool champ, really interesting way to play. He's a tank, and he's a support champ, so don't think you're going to go in and wreck people like you would with a Mumu or Singed or Rammus, but one of the coolest ults in the game. He can ult to an allied champion, and will absorb damage for them, and teleports to the champ's location. I mean, it's a really cool ult. It's really nice if your AD carry is in a pinch, maybe is running away from two champs, and he can ult to them, and the range on it's global, so you don't have to worry about staying near your AD carry. That's just one way you could use it. I mean, obviously there's many ways you could use it, but I think his ult's one of the coolest ults in the game. One of the most overlooked champs. I've seen him come into games and change the way that we had a team fight. Cody, you can go ahead.
All right. So one more thing about Shen is, like Dave said, you're not going to do a ton of damage with him because it's a tank, but his passive is kind of cool for a tank because it scales every 8 seconds. It scales an auto attack off of his 8% of his health and off some additional magic damage. And also, whenever he is hit by something, Shen is, this cooldown is reduced by 2 seconds. So if you combine that with his AoE taunt that he has, you're basically going to get people attacking you constantly, and you'll be able to hit people for 8% of your max health constantly.
Yeah, and again, he's a tank, so if you go in there against said AD carry, they're going to get eaten. They're just going to get, especially getting taunted by, that's one of the best things about Rammus. I'm a huge Rammus fan. He has that taunt. That's just the taunt. Especially, you could build something like a Thor mail on him and then just rip into the AD carries that are supposed to be winning the game for the other team. All right, and moving on, we have Teemo, the Swift Scout, the second champ that I ever played in League of Legends. And let me tell you, I think he's a phenomenal champ. Cody, you already know what I'm going to say, and we have not talked about this. Don't build him AP. He scales horribly on AP, with the exception of Blinding Dart. He scales at a 0.8. Now, Cody might disagree with me, and if you want to, that's fine. But literally, the guy scales 0.04 and 0.2 on his AP. There's no reason you would build him AP. I would agree with building something like a Nashor's Tooth, Berserker Greaves, Phantom Dancer, stuff like that. You want to build a normal AD carry build with maybe a little bit of AP. just so the toxic shot will do a little bit more damage. But other than that, there's really no point to build him AP. Like I said, you want to build him basically as any other AD carry, yet you want to give him a little bit of AP with that Nashor too. Even maybe a Hex Tech. You could throw one of those on him. It probably wouldn't be that bad. Cody, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with not building him AP, obviously, because he has terrible ratios. But I definitely think early game items like a Malady or a Madrid's Blood Razor even are just fantastic items on him because they give him that attack speed and some ability power to help him do a little bit more damage early game. So that gives him, I guess, an advantage over most AD carries, is that he has a little bit of burst damage, and he also has a little bit more damage early game.
Yeah, it's really good. You can go out and you can harass AD carries like it's no one's business, actually. And even, I laned against the Teemo mid lane the other day with Brand and had a rough time because he could just run out and hit me with that poison dart and then walk away. And he's so fast with his move quick ability. Basically all you do is you run in and you Q, hit them with a poison dart, and then W, sprint away. And it was really hard because you couldn't do anything about it. And I've seen them do the same thing, and I've done it to people in lane against AD carries. Because when you with that blinding dart, then they're going to miss their next attacks. So he's a really good champ. I wouldn't say he's overlooked. He's got the Noxus Trap, which is really nice because it's almost like a 10-minute ward, or it doesn't give you that much vision. But I mean, you can lay down a lot of those things, and they're there for 10 minutes. I can't tell you how many kills I've gotten from just throwing them in bushes as soon as they're available to me. Just throw them somewhere, and you'll constantly have places all over the map, so you won't have to worry about ganks. So, and moving on to the next champ, Veigar or Vigar, the Tiny Master of Evil. Is another one that my girlfriend pronounced a certain way. She said Vigar. I say Veigar, but regardless, tell me what you guys think. It's fine with me. Cody, what do you think? Is it Veigar or Vigar?
It's whatever I feel like.
It's whatever you feel like that day. All right, and again, a really nice champ. He's got some great crowd control on him, and it seems to me, I've never played him, but I've played against him enough. His abilities cooldowns are generally pretty low. But Cody, do you want to go ahead and chime in on him?
Well, yeah, his cooldowns might be low, but the problem with Veigar that you're going to come across is mana. Because you need to constantly be using your Q to farm minions, and that costs 75 mana. So you're obviously going to want to be using that as much as you can because you get ability power every time you kill a unit with it. So in lane, you might have all your stuff off cooldown, but you're going to be on such low mana that you really need to time your harass correctly and not just waste it.
So would you agree then maybe something like either, Tear the Goddess into an Archangel Staff or
definitely necessary.
Yeah, or a Catalyst into a Rod of Ages. Something like that, you want to build some kind of mana replenisher, I guess.
Yeah.
And then into AP.
Well, the one thing I have to say about the Rod of Ages is there's almost, in my opinion, no reason to build like health on Veigar. I mean, I know that sounds weird because you want to stay alive, but Veigar is the type of champ where you're going to go in, you're going to stun someone, and let me mention this real quick. You're going to want to level up your E more than just once to get the stun. I know it may seem like a waste because it doesn't do any more mana the more you level it up, but each time you level it up, you get a quarter of a second added onto the stun. And that makes it so much easier to unleash your full combo on someone because of that delay on your W. And by leveling this up, you'll be able to get in there, nuke someone down, and then get out. So health isn't really the problem in that instance. I mean, maybe a Guardian Angel late game for team fights, but...
Okay. And do you know the cast time on Dark Matter? Is it 1.5 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, no, it's 1.2 seconds.
Okay. Because one thing I was going to say is, if you're going to play him, when you put down that stun, make sure you're ready on that Dark Matter because that stun's not going to last that long. You're going to want to make sure you get that Dark Matter off like almost immediately because a lot of times, again, I'll use a flash or even Vane's Tumble, something like that, to really just get out of a sticky situation. And also, one thing also to know about him is in that stun, the event horizon, if you get stuck in the middle when it's cast, as long as you don't run into any of the walls, then you won't get stunned. So if you can just run around in that little area and not get stunned, and you can flash out of it, just so you guys know.
And actually, almost anything that can take you over a wall can get you out of that event horizon.
Okay, so you could even use Caitlyn's.
I don't know about Caitlyn's. Don't quote me on that. But I know Trindamir's spin you can get out of it with.
Okay.
And Jarvan's flag, if you do his flag,
that's true.
your combo, you can get out of it.
I don't think Vayne's tumble will do it, because I think I've accidentally done that before. So I wouldn't try that. Actually, that'd be something interesting to see. Who can use that to get out of it. That'd be interesting to see that. But apparently, also spell shields. So like Nocturne spell shield, Morgana spell shield, it doesn't you don't get stunned if it's up. So you could even use something like a Banshee's Veil to do that. All right, and moving on to the last champ, we have Warwick. One of the champs I've always wanted to play, and have never gone out there and just paid the $13.50 IP for him so I could play him. I don't think anybody would disagree. I think he's one of the best junglers. He's one of the best gankers because he has that nasty, nasty suppress. And like I always have this, Cody and I have this joke where I always say, if a Yi is in a game, don't feed Yi. Same thing with do not feed Warwick. He will do damage to your towers, and he will just destroy your team generally. Cody, go ahead.
Yeah, like Dave said, he's definitely, in my opinion, a top 3 jungler, maybe. Definitely put OD or above him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's really because, I mean, his suppress is fantastic, but unless you're ganking a lane where the person you're ganking for has some sort of like stun, like Annie or something, then you're not really going to have a successful gank because you don't have any crowd control until you're level 6.
That's true. That's true.
That's why you don't see very many Warwick junglers anymore, is because of that lack of an early gank.
Well, wouldn't you think, though, he's such a quick jungler, so he can almost just kind of counter jungle a little bit and get ahead that way.
But creeps only spawn so fast.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. That's true.
It takes at least 2 clears to get to level 6. I think it takes more than that, actually. That long period before you can gank can really be detrimental to your team if someone's having a rough lane.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but like you said, top 3 jungler maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, definitely top 5.
You can't stop Warwick from jungling. I mean, he'll be able to counter jungle you so easily too, which I recommend you do if you play Warwick. Him and Nunu, if you jungle with them, you need to go into their person's jungle because you're going to be higher. Yeah, and Shaco. You're going to be higher health than them, and you'll easily be able to out damage them at those early levels.
And they also have really great escapability. All 3 of those champs. Shaco, nasty to see, and Nunu's blood boil. I mean, definitely on all those champs. You want to do counter jungling. All right, and for everyone's favorite moment of the week, Cody, you know what I'm going to ask you. Who's your champ of the week to learn?
Champ of the week to learn. I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to say there's 2 champs of the week to learn.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, so if you haven't already learned a Mumu, you need to learn him, or at least play him a little bit so you're comfortable, because in ranked, you get the opportunity to play a Mumu. You should probably play a Mumu. He's banned a lot. Yeah, he's banned a lot, but if you get the opportunity to play him, play him. And if you already know Mumu, like I expect almost everyone does, I'd say this week, Shen would be a great champion to learn. There's always a lack of tanks nowadays, and I just feel like more people should try and fill that role.
All right, and I think that's what you did last week. Actually, you said play the tank role. So I agree with that, but I'm going to disagree with the champ of the week. Obviously, there's a no-brainer play champ of the week, a Mumu. I completely agree with Cody on that one. But I'm going to say, everyone go out there, play Teemo, and build him AD. Don't waste your time with the AP. Go out there, learn him. There is not a shortage of AD players out there. I'm one of them. But I think you should go out and learn the champ. I think just 90% because who doesn't want free 10-minute wards? Who doesn't want them? And I didn't say 3, which is how many you can carry at a time. I said free. So I think you guys should go out there, learn Teemo. Let us know what you guys think about the show this week. Also, let us know what champs you guys are going to be looking at. And thanks for all the subscriptions and all the feedback so far. It's been nice to hear from you guys. This is Dave Piper for Mr. Manslaughter. Cody, you have anything you want to say?
Nope.
No, nothing cute this week? No, I love you? No. All right, well, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll be back next week. Thanks.